title of my opening sequence, I think, is quite conventional to my genre. I think it says a lot about my film, and I think this is definitely what the title of a film should do. The most obvious relation to the film title and its content is that it is called Gracie, for the obvious reason that the main character is also called Gracie, and it's about Gracie's life. The title moves in a scribbly motion, which I think suggests that it's a child's writing, and so this relates to Gracie's age because she's only young and still a child. The word Grace is written in pink, which is girly, and so tells us a bit about her personality, and also this is to make the word Grace stand out. It tells us more about the personality than you would first think. It tells us that she is kind, caring, elegant, and innocent, as these are some of the connotations of the word grace. The eye is also made to stand out, as it is in white. The eye is supposed to represent Gracie. It is in white, and so it shows purity, and it is made to stand out and look alone, because this is how Gracie feels. She feels different and very much like the odd one out. I think the setting and location of my film suits the genre I've chosen to follow of social realism, because it's set in quite a rundown, quite a grotty place, which I think plays on the audience's emotions. I think my storyline falls into the social realist genre quite well. The story is about a young girl, Gracie, whose older sister Bethany suffers from spastic cerebral palsy. The family receive much abuse and discrimination because of Bethany's disability. This makes Gracie feel quite upset and also a bit down. My opening shot is quite hard-hitting and brings my audience straight into Gracie's life, and I think it also shows them how the story is going to pan out. I think my storyline is conventional for the genre because it is a gritty drama, which is quite sad, and I think this is how social realist films are. I think they aim to make people more aware of the social issues around them, and I think disability is one that really needs to be brought out. Gracie's the main character in my opening sequence, and I think this is clear because she is the first character to be introduced, and the opening sequence is created around her. I think Gracie is shown to be quite busy and also quite lonely. She has a lot to do in my opening sequence, and she's always seen on her own. I think she's also represented quite positively because she's seen to be making the breakfast for her elder sister, and this becomes clear at the end. The font of my titles is really clear and makes them a lot easier to read. It's quite smart and also quite elegant, which also helps. I've made the colour of my titles white and I've put them on a plain black background. I think this makes them stand out more and is also quite conventional to the social realist genre. A Room for Romeo Brass also has titles across a black background and in white writing. The font of my opening sequence is far sharper, but I feel that my film is far more serious from the beginning, and it does not include the comedy element which A Room for Romeo Brass does. Happy Go Lucky uses a similar font to me, and the titles are also placed on a black background. I think that my titles are conventional to my genre because they look smart and they are placed separately on a black background to make them stand out rather than emerging them into the picture. Some of the props I've used include a wooden board across Gracie's front door. This board is meant to cover the glass on her front door, and so giving the impression that the windows have already been broken, which also gives the impression that the community in which Gracie lives isn't very nice and it's quite run down, and this is of course conventional to my genre. The community is then made to look even worse as someone has graffitied spastic across that board. I think this again fits with the location conventions of my genre. I've also tried to use normal everyday objects such as a toaster and plate and things like this to try and make my opening sequence seem as real and as normal as possible, which I think will help the audience feel even more emotion for Gracie because they may feel that everything else in her life is quite normal. Maybe they could relate it to their own lives. I think my editing is quite smooth and I think it's also quite conventional. I've made my cuts simple and fairly plain. I don't really think that my opening sequence needs any fancy edits because I think this could possibly detract from the seriousness of my storyline.